On the business side, what do you think the worst common advice that you hear about land flipping? Because, we're all land flippers now. Hello, Legends of Land. Hold on to your hats as we dive into the world of land with Daniel Esteban Martinez. Born and bred in Chicago, he's filled with wisdom passed down from his father. He's mastered trucking, unlocked the secrets of land flipping, and navigated the vast sea of data and skip tracing. Teaming up with Anthony, they kicked off a $1 Million Land Mastermind and scored some huge wins. Ever heard of the Hive With Us podcast? That's Daniel. And the cutting edge Hivemind CRM? That's also Daniel. Outside of the hustle, he's all about family, a great husband and father. So buckle up and learn the tactics and strategies that made Daniel a success in land. Daniel, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Excited to be here. Excited to share some information. I hear you have a lot of questions.
I'm the question man. I'm here to learn and try to kind of tease out the tactics of experts like yourself. So, yeah. As we get started, I call this the burger flip summary, but just picture you're at a barbecue, you're talking to someone, they've already verified themselves as someone who understands some stuff, and they say, hey, so what do you do in land? And the time it takes to flip a burger, what is your niche? What do you do in land?
So I buy large, unobtainable land that's usually pretty expensive. We subdivide and seller finance it out. It's pretty much in a nutshell. A lot of people can't afford a big parcel of land, so we go out there and create inventory.
And did you start with subdividing, or did you start somewhere else? So what's the starting point for you?
How far back you want to go?
Let's do your first deal.
First deal, I was actually trying to do houses at first, and I contracted like 2 or 3 houses. Didn't work out for a couple reasons. So I was living in Atlanta at the time, and I was doing PPC marketing. So I had a website up with Google Ads running to it. And a lady in Atlanta hit my marketing. And she's like, I own this lot in Florida. People keep dumping on my property because it's vacant, and I just don't want to deal with it anymore. I'm like, all right. So I looked it up real quick. It was worth about 20, 25 grand. So I know with land, especially if you're wholesaling, you need to move at a wholesale price, just like with houses. So I'm like, if it's worth 20 to 25, I know I can move it fairly quickly for 12. So I'm like, if I need to get it for 12, I need to get this deal for at least 5 grand or less and see what happens. So the lead came in. I was emailing her because I was afraid to talk to her at the time because I was afraid to talk to anybody. And I emailed her across emails and like, hey, would you take $4,236.33? Just made up a number. She's like, can you do 5? I was like, yes, I can do 5. And we contracted the deal. I never spoke to the seller, never spoke to the buyer. I found a buyer marketplace in about 2 days and sold it. And that's how I did my first deal. It was a land deal, and I've been doing land ever since.
And from there, you were hooked. You just saw the path, huh?
Yeah, I've been doing 100% land. The only house deal I've ever done was I subbed to seller finance my house because I already had lived in it, owned it, and selling at the market rate at that time was I was going to lose money, so I just seller financed it.
So if you were talking to someone who was just getting into land like myself, where would you point them? Do you have a favorite book that you recommend or a top influencer outside of yourself where you kind of say, hey, go here and learn about doing your first deals in land?
Land specific, there's an author named Land Mogul, John Alexander. He does a lot of education towards the land space. He has like 5 or 6 books out. He's a good friend of ours. I recommend all this stuff if you're looking to learn about just land in general. He does a lot of good stuff.
Nice. Thank you. And how about the best tool or software maybe that you've purchased in the last year or so? Anything new that you're using or that you recommend that everyone should be kind of using in their journey?
Everybody should use a CRM. It's not really a pitch on Hivemind, but you should use a CRM in general. It helps you be more effective and efficient with your job or your duties as a whole. So before I started Hivemind, I was using Podio, and it was a pain in the butt as a whole. I'm pretty techie, but I'm not that techie, and I struggle with Podio. But we needed something to organize our leads a little bit more and be more effective and efficient. So ended up having the opportunity to start Hivemind, and that's what I'm digging in. So I literally use Hivemind, which is our own CRM software. I literally use it in like 3 different businesses. We use it daily. I have a full team, full staff. Like it's crazy. Like I would not be efficient and as effective as I am now without the software.
Talk about some of the things that Hivemind does that's a little bit specific to land that just your standard CRM might not do.
So it's link tracking. I mean, we use it for our software itself. We've generated about like $1.2 million just using it ourselves on the software side. On the real estate side, we used it for generating PPC leads through websites, converting links, link tracking, texting, all that stuff. We use it for lead generation. It does a lot of cool things that texting might be going away, but you have to use websites and lead in pages and PPC tracking, PPC in general. I think we're already pivoting to more towards that of inbound leads, and that's what we like. We like inbound leads. So just using and coordinating a lot of things that work in the background where you don't just have to work it yourself.
And what do you mean by inbound leads? Like you're doing Google targeted ads, like for people to be, hey, you want to sell your land type of thing?
Yep. Seller goes to Google, who buys land in blank Texas, and we come up, boom.
Okay.
So it's a very hot lead that comes in. So whenever it comes in, boom, we got John Smith selling to 123 Main Street. It has 50 acres, and they want this amount, and their motivation is ABC.
That's fantastic. And so do you still do outbound mailing, calling, text, or are you fully transitioned?
We transition, man. We offer it as a service to other people if they want to do it, because we're essentially, we do land, but we're a marketing agency as well. So we leverage our marketing agency to do land as a whole, and then we use education. So personally, ourselves, our deal flow comes from our students and the MLS. We haven't literally marketed for a deal for probably 8 months now. All our deal flow comes from students or the MLS that we're doing that come in from agent referrals like that.
That's interesting. So you've got a few different verticals going, kind of all surrounding the land space. That's quite an ecosystem. That's a great play.
And that's all it is, man. You gotta where most businesses, and this is like all real estate businesses, have to dedicate money to marketing. We're at zero. We're at zero. Those our marketing is zero. So even to the point where people pay us to do marketing. So
you're. And so, yeah, that's fantastic. So someone can come in, be a part of your community, and then you kind of have this one-stop shop where, hey, you want leads, we can hand those to you. And then, how are you getting deal flow through your community? It's leads deals that they don't want to do themselves. They want JV, joint venture on, or what's that deal flow look like?
So it's a little combination of both. So we provide systems and tools to go do their own leads. So like some people might target houses and they get land leads that come across. So it's something out of the wheelhouse that they don't necessarily know how to deal with. So they'll just serve it up on a platter, or other things where like we'll teach them what to look for and what to ask for, and then they'll serve those on a platter. So a lot of people they want to do larger deals just because you can get paid a larger portion of a transaction just for finding the lead. So one of our students, they just found a $1 million property. We're gonna give them 50 grand for finding that lead, just for finding the lead, not even negotiating, contracting it, nothing. We're gonna give them 50 grand. So people like that, like, hey, if I can just find good deals and then I can make profit as much as doing a flip, let me go do that.
Okay. So you look at kind of all aspects of the deal, even someone who's like, hey, I've got this one, I can't quite handle it. What do you want to, you want to take it from here, and then that's okay. That's kind of a good resource, I think, for someone beginning, when they get in, they're trying to do something specific, they get a little over their head, and then they can, still have someone find value out of it.
100%. And like a lot of the, like when you get into the big land space, the hardest part is capital. So we've raised a lot of capital for those deals, and we're still raising capital. We're always raising capital. If anyone wants to donate money or talk about money conversation about this, we're always having that conversation. Because one thing where we're at right now is like we had to stop contracting deals because we ran out of capital to to lock up. So like we're deploying new capital. All the new capital gets pretty much recycled right back into the machine, and it's a heavy beast to carry because you're always recycling capital very heavy, very quickly.
What do you think the first bottleneck that people hit scaling a land business like you're doing? Is it always capital, or is there something that comes before that?
Number one is always leads. One of my sales trainers, his name was Steve Trang. He's like, the biggest businesses and the biggest people, he's like, oh, they do a lot of business, The only differences they have is they have more lead flow. They might not be, they always talk about, oh, I'm the best negotiator, best closer. And it's not really that. It's just they have more leads. There's going to be laydowns that come into the front door if you're just marketing for leads. So that's the whole thing is number one that most people trip up on is how to get lead flow. So once you understand that, you're actually going to do deals, even if you're terrible at real estate and terrible at negotiation, you're going to do a deal. It's going to happen over time if you just go through enough leads. And then number two is probably follow-up. People struggle with follow-upping with their contacts. And you're going to have to make a lot of contacts to usually get that deal. So one thing about land is that it's almost like there's like a boomerang effect that comes with land. So a deal we did about 2 years ago was we had a seller reach out to us through our marketing, and he's like, hey, I have this $40,000 lot. Can you give me 15 for it? Most wholesalers would jump all over that, like, dude, that's already 50% off, 45% off. Like, we're going to jump on this. But my partner's like, dude, a deal ain't going nowhere. So we're like, we'll offer him 8. So dude's like, I have to get 15. I can't do 8. I'm like, all right, whatever. So 90 days pass. He calls us back. Hey, I remember you're interested in my land. You want to make an offer? It's like, I need 15 for it. He's like, yeah, we told you 8. Like, so that's what we'll give you. We'll give you 8. He's like, all right, I'll take the 8. So like land doesn't move. It's very, very liquid. It just doesn't move. So the deal boomerang back to us after we made the offer. And we tell our students, make the offer. It can always come back 6 months, 9 months later, a month later. You never know the situation. There's always opportunity where it can come back. So the deal came back, and we contracted it for $8,000. We sold it on Marketplace for $8,000, down $500 a month for 5 years.
Beautiful.
That's the story. So land is one of those things where, like, if you don't move a house in 30 days or less, you're a jerk. But land, like, we contract for 120 days. It sits in the market for years. The MLS properties we target are on the MLS 6 months or more. Like, they just sit there. Like, no one's going to buy them.
And how often do you do seller financing?
That's our offer. We try and do seller financing every time, because if we can get some type of seller financing, it's always going to make the deal work at whatever price point. So the price doesn't matter. We're always looking for seller financing, and land has the most equity in real estate. Single family gets traded often a lot, and multifamily commercial, there's always debt being exchanged and refinanced out all the time. So land has the most equity and the most property. It's the largest asset class in real estate. We try and do owner financing as much as possible because it alleviates the cash problem. So everybody in real estate, the one issue they have that stops them from growing at any point is cash. Like, that's the only problem that stops 99% of people is cash. The only people that don't have that problem are people that are well funded, like up to $50, $100 million. But if you're under that, which is 90% of everybody, you run out of cash. That's the one thing you run out of. Whether you're using your capital, private capital, hard money lending, you run out of capital. It's one of those things that you're always going to run out of capital first. There's even to the point where if you're working with a hard money lender, if you exhaust his capital, he's going to be like, dude, I can only do this much because you're essentially all I'm with. So I'm going to diversify with other investors because I can't do so much with you. So you're going to exhaust, like, there's a cap at every level. So capital is the one thing that holds everybody back. But one thing that we can get is seller financing. I can do that individually with every seller. Every deal we contract, I can do it individually. If it's 80% or 10%, I can do that with every seller. I mean, we're trying to do the deal with no money out of pocket. So we'll lock up a deal with $10,000. We'll get a hard money lender to put it up. We need $20,000 to do engineers and whatever. We'll get a hard money lender to put it up, or a private money lender to put it up. We're not trying to put any of our own capital into it. And we'll give away returns because there's so much earning potential in land. That's the other thing too. You can make big spreads in land. Alex Ramosi talks about this is like easiest way to make $1 million is to mess with $1 million products. So it's easy to create that spread. If you have a $10 million product, it's easy to make $1 million because it's only 10% margin that you're actually creating or adding. Whereas if you have $100,000 asset, you can't squeeze anything out of that. You're going to get $5 grand, 10 grand. That's it. Which is why like market specific and asset type and asset sizes, like that's why you're kind of bottlenecked by the size deal you do as a whole, because you can only squeeze so much out of that deal. Even if you got the best negotiator out there, you can only squeeze so much out of it.
So kind of expanding on that concept, if you were a newer land flipper and you wanted to kind of get into the game, what price range would you be looking in? You want to go big enough where there's some juice to the squeeze, but yeah. So how would you think about that?
It's based off of your own experience, capital level, capital you might have at your advantage. Like I interviewed a podcast guest on my podcast. He took him 5 years to create $50,000 a month in cash flow, just doing the deal I talked about with the $8,000, $500 a month. You do 100 deals like that, $50,000 a month. You can do that. It's 100% possible. There's people that do that. Little $50,000 lots or less. You get them for $10,000, $15,000, whether you take them down or seller finance them or wholesale them. You can do a lot with that. When you start getting to bigger assets, it's more risk to the lender, which is why we ask for seller financing. So if you have a $200,000 property, like that's as much as a house, and that's what lenders are looking at. Like, hey, why would I put 200? Like land is like its whole another animal. That's why a lot of people stay small, because it's a whole another animal to get capital. If there's more investors that are willing to lend on land, on houses, because they know, hey, worst case scenario, I can rent it out. Worst case scenario, I can rehab it and sell it for whatever it's worth. I can sell or finance. I have a lot of exit strategies. With land, if they're not a land investor themselves, they don't understand the exit strategies, and they're just like, I don't understand it. I'm gonna stay out. I'm out. So when you get to higher price points and higher deal size, you get like your capital resources are really going to be tapped to a point where like, I'm out. I'm not going to do that. And that's why we ask for seller financing. So if you can get seller financing on a large asset, you can create a lot more wealth, because the land seller understands the value because he's owned it or bought it for so long. He understands the value and he's willing to carry it to get his price. Whereas a regular land lender or lender itself doesn't understand it, and they're not going to hold it. Like one thing about being a lender is like, are you okay holding that asset? And to a regular hard money lender, like, no, I don't want. Why would I want land? That sounds scary.
Yeah.
You know.
For
So
sure.
it's one of those things where like I can convince a seller to be the lender versus a private money lender.
What's an example of terms that you generally try to get for rate? And yeah,
it depends on where they're at. So I'm actually doing a presentation on this, and I'm going to make like a graphic to put out there to share with other people. But you can do different strategies based off of what the property value is worth. So you have overvalued, fair market value, and undervalued. So depending on where that price point is, and this is where you have to understand land as a whole, depending on where that deal fits in that value calculator, then you can do certain things. So if it's overvalued, you can only do a certain amount of things. So if it's overvalued, you can only do long-term debt. You can do an option. You can do interest only. You can do a lease. You can do a lot of different things like that. But if it's undervalued, you can do cash. You can do interest. You can offer a short balloon, a long balloon. You can offer interest only. You can do a lot of cool creative stuff when it's undervalued, but it's kind of based off of what you can get for it. So like us, if we're subdividing, we're looking at a deal for 2.5 that produces 1.5. So it's like 150% of value, maybe up to 200%. And then our expenses will come out of that. So we're still going to make a good 500 to 800 grand, maybe $1 million. Who knows? So you have to look at your margin of safety. Like if all goes wrong and I have to liquidate these at a discount price, I'm still going to make money. And that's the cool thing about land. Like a 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom house that's 1,200 square feet. There's a whole community around it. Recent comps that it's only worth $250,000. That's it. You can paint it, You can add a new roof, it's still worth 250. You can you can furnish it, it's still worth 250. Like, it is what it is. With land, we can get a property like, hey, we can do either 30 grand or we might make 100. Who knows? We'll find out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you have a good enough margin where there's room for error. So we had a deal we're looking to make like 120 on it. By the time close came, we only made 50. And we're like, oh no, we only made 50. Like, that's terrible.
Yeah. Tough times, huh?
Tough times, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes down to, where like you can get a big enough margin of safety where like, I'm not going to do anything to this and I'm still going to clear 30 to 50 grand. Like,
yeah. So you're structuring things with the downside in mind, basically finding what that capped downside is and then building your offer with all the aspects from there, huh?
Yeah. We try not to even negotiate on price. Like, if the seller wants $2 million, we'll give them $2 million, but it has to be at this terms.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want $2 million, like, I saw this on Twitter. This is like, you're asking me to buy a liquid land asset with my cash.
Mm-hmm.
What's the upside?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to look at it. And I think that pressure on the seller, they feel that innately, whether they know it or not, like, this is stuck, or I can have cash in hand. So it gives you that great leverage.
Mm-hmm.
So what's one of your favorite failures throughout? You've done all kinds of businesses and things like that. A favorite failure that set you up for success?
I originally came from trucking. I used to be a truck driver. I operated my own trucking company. I learned a lot about business in trucking, and I don't regret it. Like, I learned a lot. I still see people tweet about trucking and stuff like that, and I'm like, get out now. It's just one of those things where, like, it's very capital intensive. You learn a lot about business. So, like, a lot of the major publicly traded trucking companies, they operate off a margin of 3% or less. Damn. Yes, they're doing billions of dollars, but they're only making 3% of that. They're making 3 pennies out of every dollar or less, which is crazy. Like, the stock market isn't the real world, in my opinion, because, like, you have Uber that barely made the first profit in this quarter, I think, out of 10 years they've been in business. So like, and that's $1 billion company that hasn't made profit. Like, this is crazy. I think the stock market isn't the real world, and how you value and evaluate that is crazy to me, in my opinion, because I don't think it's just crazy.
Yeah, I came from laundromats. My family owned a little laundromat, and so that was like the family business, and I learned how to build those, and that's machinery intensive, probably a little bit similar to trucking, where you have a lot of your livelihood is tied up in just the equipment and this huge expense. And then it's, every decade you need to reinvest to keep things going, and it's operating on smaller margins. And just then I was in service business. It's got its own set of things. What drew me to land is some of the things you're saying here. If you could put one message out on Twitter that everyone in the land business would see, what would that message be?
Find something that's scalable and replicatable. Talking about the business section here, from trucking, you're only capped out based off what you can produce off that, almost like your laundromat, off that location, or what the equipment you have, and you still have to find your customers, you still have to produce, you still have to deliver to get paid. So I used to make fun of trucking a lot. It's like the stars have to align for you to get paid. And I'm sure it's the same way for a laundromat business. But when I got into software, it's replicatable, it's scalable, it's instant deliverability. And I think land and real estate kind of works in the same space. There's a little bit more of longer timelines, but it's one of those things where it's replicatable, repeatable, that if you can find the deal, you can fund the deal, and you can sell the deal, you can do as many deals as you can.
How do you think about the difference between business to consumer, business to business? Because you're doing a little bit of both with the model you have set up. And do you like one or the other better?
I think business to business has its ups and downs, because I think a lot of people don't realize the struggle of business. Like, I've had to have conversations with businesses that their card declined. Like, you got to have that conversation, and it's not always a good conversation, but it's got a conversation you have. Where a business to consumer, they have something, like with the real estate side, they already have something that is of value. So they're just trying to negotiate the terms. So I think there's a lot of exchange there. It's hard. Like I said, I don't know. I do a lot of both. I don't know which one I like more, honestly. I like the real estate side. I like the real estate and software side, man. I like everything I do, even podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I wouldn't change the path I got to get here and everything I did to get here. It's been really enjoyable. I've learned a lot. I have a plethora of information that I've acquired through multiple sources as a whole. So it's kind of like a lot of people, you get paid by the problems you solve. And I think if you come across a lot of problem solvers, it adds more tools to your tool belt and you become more proficient at solving problems, and the problems just get bigger as you become a bigger organization. So there's like floors and ceilings to everything. So once you break through a new ceiling, there's a new floor. Like, okay, now there's something difficult up ahead that can ruin you. There's always something in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just the nature of business, and you're someone who wears a lot of hats, kind of like a bit of a Renaissance man. So it's like it's just this big tool belt of whatever problem comes up, I'm going to be able to hit it from some sort of interesting angle and kind of get it done here. So
it's having a team too, man. I mean, between the real estate side and software side, we probably got about 20 employees. So like you got to have a lot of resources at your fingertips to make stuff happen. So like a lot of what you see online isn't all me. It's all my team effort. And there's like all the deals we do, I wouldn't be able to do without my team. So there's a lot that goes into that, and it's working with the right people and finding the right people to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you structure all your systems and keep track and organize? What type of software you use for kind of your company structure, communications, and things like that?
Man, everything is ran through. All the marketing is ran through Hivemind, and like lead management is ran through Hivemind. As far as coordination on the sales side, it's through text and emails and all the above. And we just everybody's working to the same mission. We all know what the goals are, and we know what the next product. And I try and keep everybody on the team updated on where things are transitioning to, where we're transitioning to. And you can always keep a good team on if they know where you're going. Like, people don't want to work for a business that isn't going anywhere. Like they're sacrificing their biggest asset, which is time.
You wear a lot of hats, and interesting dude, obviously. What's an unusual habit or something absurd that you kind of love that's part of all the business that you do?
As like a hobby or as like business?
It could be either one.
I have an answer for both of these. I think podcasting on the business side is something I enjoy. I knew I needed to do it as a pivotal point, because I think we're going to a digital age. You need to build your own foundation and your own credibility, and leveraging your own brand is paramount, I think, especially in these days. So I think podcast is one of those things where I did it as like, I know I needed to do it, but now I love it. As far as like personal stuff, I play chess. I like playing chess. I play a couple games a day on chess.com, and we'll call it a day.
Oh, wow. That's next level. That's like some business mastermind stuff right there. What's a new belief, behavior, habit that you think has improved your life or business that you've taken up in the last couple of years?
Taking a day off. I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with this as a whole. They struggle with it, but sometimes you gotta take your time off. You gotta time block. You gotta make time for things that are important. I tell my wife, I'm like, if you want to plan stuff, if you want to go to the beach, like, let me know at least a week, 2 weeks in advance, and I'll make it happen. Like, there's no question if I can make it. It's just, let's do it. I'm down. Let's go. So I think time blocking and making time for the things that are important. A lot of people, they're like, oh, I want to work to retirement and I want to get there in 10 years. I'm like, dude, I'm living the life I want to right now.
On the business side, what do you think the worst common advice that you hear about land flipping? Because, we're all land flippers now. What do you hear out there that's like common and not good?
Well, I was hoping you would I already had an answer, and then you said land flipping. I'm like, oh no.
Okay, well, let's do both. Do the answer that popped in your head first, because that's generally the best one.
The answer that popped in my head first is dividends. The dividend Twitter, like, they go off on rants about dividends, and like, I made $3 this month, and I'm like, dude, Like
Yeah.
the best investment you can make early on is in yourself, because you can increase your ROI to bring in money. Like that's your number one asset. Like dividends is not your number one thing you should invest in with your $10 you have left. This shouldn't be where it goes. It should be in your education. So dividends is always the first kicker to me. And I think if you're broke, you need to invest either in yourself to increase your capital and what type of capital you can bring in yourself. And then once you have a capital built up, then you can invest in other assets. And I always say dividends are for rich people because they're the ones who can afford a 4% return. Like if you're broke, you need to make more money than that. Like, I'm sorry. As far as for land investors, that's my 2 cents. The dividend Twitter just every time I see it, I don't even follow these people, but I'm always commenting. I'm like, ugh.
I've got a small amount of personal experience with that. Not dividends, but buying a rental property, single family home rental property is kind of akin to dividends. So I save up all this money, I buy this property. Now I'm, I'm turning $250 a month profit. It's like, yeah, that was a nice spend for 60 grand, So same thing. It's if you're not there yet, you need to start biting off bigger chunks before you start doing those smaller returns like that. So
100%. So land investors, I would say be open-minded to larger things, because you don't know if you can catch it. It's like one of those things where like, I'm so focused on my one thing, I never look at anything else, and I'm just hyper-focused. I think hyper-focus is good and bad at the same time. It depends what stage you are in your business. Like I think early on, hyper-focus is paramount because that's what delivers results. But once you have results and you already have a proven strategy, I think like easing back and being open-minded, because there might be opportunity that you can leverage that skill set that hyper-focus brought you. It can create more capital now at a larger scale. So I think a lot of people get stuck in that rut. And I always bring up like house flippers and like people that do houses, because like there's people to this day that have been doing flipping houses for 20 years. And the only thing they can do is flip more houses next year. That's always their goal.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't want to flip more land next year. It might be bigger land, which is better. It might be bigger assets, but I don't want to do more. I want to do less.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so talk about some other advice for new entrepreneurs that what they should do, what they shouldn't do, and maybe expand a little bit on kind of your thought. Picture yourself as someone who's just getting into land and the directions they could take and how they should go about that.
If you're just starting on land, I recommend doing small. Get your first 10, 15 deals under your belt. Like practice with small stuff first, and you'll get more comfortable and knowledgeable in that space. So I think starting out wherever you fit in is 100% where you should start. Don't step out of your comfort zone. Yes, you can learn other things, but just figure out how to do 10 deals, 5 deals a month, a deal a month, like wherever stage that is. Try and figure out where that is, and then if you want to do bigger things, just stretch a little bit. Don't break yourself trying to do a whole new thing. We talk about this all the time. Is that don't be a whale hunter, because if you're a whale hunter, you might starve before you get your next meal.
I like that.
You might start before you hit your next meal. So I think entrepreneurship is all about longevity. If most people that fall out of business as either an investor or an agent, they always fall out because they can't hang. So if you survive long enough, you'll get there. Because if you make baby steps, you'll get there. It might take a year for some people or 10 years for some people. It's different phases. Like I've seen people do $1 million in their first year, and I've seen people do $1 million after year 5, year 7. Like it's one of those things where like different people had different strides, and you have to find your own where you fit in that marketplace, and then just dig in and kind of grow at scale. Because one thing about investors and agents, they always get wiped out every time there's a new, like agents are struggling right now. Investors are struggling right now. It's hard to get capital right now. Like there's a lot of things that are influencing the market. And I think it's all about survival. So if you can survive long enough, you'll make it. I think a lot of investors, they go, me and Anthony talk about this all the time. Like you'll see investors like, oh, I'm a wholesaler. I'm looking for houses, mobile homes and land, all this stuff. And then 6 months later, I'm a roofer.
Yeah.
I sell life
Oops.
now. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I understand you had to pivot, but I'm sorry. But it's one of those things where they get pushed out of it for whatever reason.
Mhm.
So it is what it is.
I like that mental framework of not being a whale hunter. I think we should name it the Moby Dick mental model. I'll keep that one with me there. I like it.
It's crazy because like I mean we hunt whales, but like we tell people like you got to do small deals because that pays the bills. That pays the bills.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you get a whale hunter, like we have a deal closing this month that we will make like 700,000. Yeah, we waited a long time for it, but it took a long time to get it up to that point to even receive that. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of like when we pivoted straight into big deals, we had no deals for like 6 months.
Oh,
It's
wow.
because those are the whole lag of catching up to that point. So if you didn't
Mm-hmm.
have extra cash, like you're gonna starve. Your business is gonna
Mm-hmm.
go to zero before you even get that chance to even kill the whale. Like, so it's one of those things where like you always have to keep that back end machine that keeps the blood flowing at all
Yeah,
times.
that's the key, huh? What would you say for a buy box for a beginner? Like if you were just going to kind of pick a niche with everything you know.
I like that deal that I mentioned. I mentioned that a lot because I think a lot of people should start there. You can find a $50,000 deal or less for 10 to 15 grand. They're out there. You got to market for them. You can make a good deal, and there's people out there that will buy that cash or buy that with $10,000 to $15,000 down. And then we can talk about creating net cash flow from it. So I always talk about creating net cash. If you can do those type of deals over and over again with little to no capital besides your marketing spend, and you can create cash flow over and over again, you're going to be in the money really quick. And you can find really good price points in that 50K and under if you market enough. So you can really create a business off of that starting out.
And are you thinking the 50K range, rural recreational, infill lots close to cities? What do you like? Where are you finding that type of county and targeting?
So it's going to change everywhere you go. We like being within an hour of the city because most people are willing to commute that far. So a lot of people are like, oh, you do desert squares. I'm like, I don't do desert squares. I know people that do, and they do okay with it. But I like being where people want to be, and that's where I operate. So you can find, and we equate it to like the donut. The donut has a hole in the middle. Everywhere the hole in the middle of Dallas and Chicago it's $1,000,000 a square foot. Like it's insane. Like imagine buying a half acre in New York. Like it's going to be insane because they can build a 100-foot building in there. So you got to think of don't operate within the donut. Go outside in the outskirts. So if that's Dallas, you might go to North Dallas, East Dallas, West Dallas, South Dallas, and operate within that little margin. You can find little half-acre lots, 1-acre lots, 3-acre lots for $50,000, and they're in where people want to be. So we actually just picked up a little 10-acre deal in a certain market, which I don't want to say. If you can find it, I did say it some point, but we picked up a little 10-acre deal. It's right outside of town, of a small town in Texas, and we're subdividing it into 11 lots. We picked it up for $225, and we're trying to sell all 11 lots for $55,000 to $60,000 per lot. So we might make like $500,000 on it, give or take.
Beautiful. You're moving. I like the donut. Well, I'm going to name another mental model. We'll call that the Homer Simpson right there. I like
Yeah,
that.
there you go.
Give myself ways to remember this stuff. Yeah. That's great. That's great. So thank you for all this stellar information. You have the Hivemind CRM. What other tools or businesses do you kind of offer to the community, ways people can work with you?
Right now it's it's a lot, but we have the land mastermind. We have a land course. You can actually text land to 210-972-1842. That sends you to our land course. It's $99, I think, and it's called Subvaluing for Success. We do land education once a week. For a week, we call it the $1 Million Land Mastermind. You can go to milliondollarlandmastermind.com/landmastermind, and that'll take you to there. I think if you text land, that's what it goes to. But if you hit the system in some way, you'll get offered it in some way. We have Hivemind CRM, which is our software SaaS product used to help businesses. We have all different types of clients, from notaries to real estate to agents to whatever. There's a lot of different uses for that, but it just helps you coordinate and operate your business effectively and more efficiently with the lead flow that you either create manually or create through ads or texting. We're on every platform Hive Minds CRM. We produce a lot of content. We have our podcast called Hive With Us Podcast with over 400 episodes. We're releasing 2 episodes a week right now, every Tuesday and Thursday. You definitely check that out. We've had a lot of cool guests from Twitter and online, but we cover a lot of different types of topics, from real estate to business to marketing, health, you name it. We cover a lot of different cool stuff on there. But I like providing education and teaching people what you can do if you just do it consistently over time.
Wonderful.
We do an annual event too. I forgot. If you go to the hiveislive.com/summit, we do an annual event every year. This year's going to be in San Antonio, September 29th and 30th. Live event. I'm teaching and covering offers, what to make on offers, and we have a couple cool guests coming in. I'm excited about, but the hiveislive.com/summit.
Killer. We'll put all those links, I'll comment section or the show note or the description so people can get them. Thank you very much for coming on the show, letting us pick your brain. And you are a true legend of land, man. Thanks for coming on the show. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you. Peace out.